United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank you all for coming this evening. Go ahead and call the roll.
Trustee Spurling. Here. Trustee Lee.
Here.
Trustee Heinz. Trustee Youngerman.
Here.
Trustee Marisak.
Here.
Trustee Bond.
All right, and we do have a quorum this evening. I will say you all looking very dashing in the sweater vest today. If Stan was at the meeting with us tonight, I'm sure he'd be very pleased with the turnout. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to public participation. We have the 2-minute opportunity for any member of the public. Is there anybody here that wishes to address the board on any topic? That's all right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. I have the most important proclamation that we ever do is National Engineers Week. I'll read the item, entertain a motion for approval. Whereas engineers have used their scientific and technical knowledge and skills in creative and innovative ways to improve society's quality of life. And whereas engineers face the major technological challenges of our time, from rebuilding towns devastated by national disaster, cleaning up the environment, and assuring safe, clean, and efficient sources of water, to designing information systems that will speed our country into the future. And whereas engineers are encouraging our young math and science students to realize the practical power of their knowledge, and whereas we look more than ever to engineers and their knowledge and skills to meet the challenges of the 21st century. Now therefore, I, Matt Brawley, as Village President of Montgomery, on behalf of its citizens and village officials, do hereby proclaim the week of February 17th through 25th, 2019 to be National Engineers Week in all of Montgomery.
Pete, you want to stand up and give a cheer or something?
All right, motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Awesome, thank you. Go ahead.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
All right, thank you. And I know that, I know typically EEI does a good deal with the National Engineers Week, so I certainly do appreciate that impact, and I don't know if you want to mention any of that.
Well, I'll mention one thing that's local here. We have been doing for the last, several years anyway, engineering competition at Krug School for the 5th graders, so we're doing that again this year. This year, we're doing a gumdrop and toothpick structure that they build, and then we put weights on it to determine how much it'll hold. So we actually tomorrow have a workshop meeting, and then I think in another week or so we have a final competition. So they seem to enjoy that, so we've been doing that for a while. So
Are they chewed up gumdrops?
they are not.
Not before.
Just for clarification.
Awesome. And
That's how it's going to be tonight.
And certainly you're inspiring kids for the future. I remember when I was a kid, one teacher said one thing to me, and I ended up being an engineer. So I'm sure and I hope there's a kid in there that you guys are inspiring their future career paths. So thank you. All right, I'll read the items for consent and entertain a motion for approval. We have minutes of the village board meeting of January 28th, executive session minutes of January 28th, the building report for January of 2019, accounts payable through January 24th, and the cancellation of the February 19th committee of the whole meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yay.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
And Trustee Lee.
Yep.
All right, I'll move on to items for separate action. We'll take A and B together, if that's all right. We have recommendation of Plan Commission of PC 2019-004Z. This is the 2019 zoning map update. And then following, we have ordinance 1841 approving the 2019 official zoning map waiver first and passage on the second reading. And I'll turn it over to our senior planner, Jared Chipman.
Thank you very much. Annually, the village is required to update the zoning map to reflect the changes of the last year. The map has been updated to reflect the annexations, special uses, and rezonings of 2018. The Plan Commission recommended approval of the zoning map update 4-0. I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have at this time.
Seems very contentious.
So moved.
Moved by,
Second.
all right, moved in second? Go ahead.
Trustee Youngerman.
This is for the
Yeah,
fact that they
sorry.
made a recommendation?
This is the recommendation, sorry about that.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
And Trustee Lee.
All right, is there a motion on item B, ordinance 1841?
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
And that carries 4-0. Thank you. All right, items C and D we'll discuss together as well, if that's all right. We have a recommendation of the Plan Commission of PC 2019-005. This is a special use request for outdoor storage located at 1717 Industrial Drive. This is Lumberman's Wholesale, Inc. And then we have the first reading of the ordinance, 1840, granting the special use for outdoor storage. And with that, I'll ask Senior Planner Chipman for a summary. Thank you.
Thank you. The petitioner, Lumberman's Wholesale, is requesting a special use for outdoor storage at 1717 Industrial Drive, which is this building here. Lumberman's primary location is across the street, across Crescent Lake Drive to the south. This is that location. Lumberman's utilizes the building at 1717 for warehouse space currently. They have indicated to staff and the Plan Commission that additional outdoor storage would be beneficial to their business and have proposed locating that outdoor storage in a section of the parking lot near the corner of Crescent Lake and Industrial Drive. So in this general vicinity. The outdoor storage would be required to comply with the building setbacks found in the M1 zoning district and would be screened by a 6-foot-tall black vinyl coated chain link fence with slats. Staff is also working with the petitioner to develop a landscape plan to provide additional screening. Lumberman's lease and the proposed special use would both require the removal of the fence upon expiration of the lease or the abandonment of the site. Staff has heard concerns from a couple of the property owners regarding the location of the storage. The Plan Commission recommended approval of this item by a vote of 4-0. The petitioner is in the audience this evening if you have any questions for him. With that, I would be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Awesome. Any
Hello.
questions of staff, or go ahead?
I do. I have a question. That area that looks like a driveway,
I apologize, this one or this one?
that one,
Okay.
is that going to stay in use? Is it currently in use?
Yes, so that will be the primary location of items being dropped off. A truck would back into that area, and one of the rationales that the petitioner has indicated to staff as to why they would like the outdoor storage kind of in the front, in the corner of the building, is because that loading area is composed of concrete. So it's a little more durable for the heavier trucks. So they'd be able to back a truck up and then most likely unload with a forklift or something right into the outdoor storage space.
And what exactly is the material?
Yeah, the petitioner may be better able to answer that. I know they have a number of different products.
The question was, what is the material?
The material, yes.
It's bulk stacks or factory-packed units of composite decking primarily and trim. If you could do a street view, Jared, I don't know if you can, or, I'm sorry.
I am not able to at this
Okay,
time.
essentially on the west end of our current building, where that blue dot is, you can see where our name. We've got units stacked that would be similar to what we're going to stack, what we'd like to stack in the parking lot at 1717. So essentially, what you'd see from a car driving on Crescent Lake would mirror if you looked. There you go. Okay, there's the building that we lease, and where those cars are, to the right is where we'd like to put the fence, and if you can turn that to face the south, you can get an idea. The chain link fence will look very similar to what's there at our gate on our west end of our property, and those are the units. Unit stack height would be no more than 6 or 7 feet, so we wouldn't protrude much past the fence.
That entrance across the street would be gated?
The entrance to the lot would not be. We can't pour posts into that concrete because the concrete's poured for trucks. It would just be cost prohibitive. So what we're going to do is just fence along. If you go back to the aerial view, it's kind of a pie shape cutting in from like the southwest to the northeast to follow the concrete drive. We'd go right inside that on the asphalt, just for easier installation and removal of the fence.
That's fine. I saw what I needed to see. I understand what he's talking about.
Jeff Esposito was my name.
That's okay.
No,
Remember what it looked like?
no, I'd like it up there because.
Okay.
You, well, I guess we'll wait till the day comes up. That, well, actually, that section that you're fencing off is going to be that entire area where cars would come through, so there won't be cars coming through at that point?
We don't utilize, we have no employees there. It's simply bulk storage right now, that
Okay.
building. So it would just be the south side of the building. In fact, if you show up, I'm able to give you a reference point from the map, but it's just that south little lot, the south portion of the parking lot,
Okay.
south of the building. No, it would
You
not.
would have the driveway where you could come in and drop the material, and then on the other side of that fenced area would be parking if there was ever
Correct,
anything
yes.
going.
The,
Okay.
in the parking lot, I'm sorry, the concrete on the south side of the building is just for entrance doors and the loading dock. The main office building, if there were to ever be employees there, the entrance is actually on Industrial Drive on the east side of the building.
And there's no storage inside the building at this point?
It's full.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The other challenge we're having, I expressed this on Thursday night, when we moved into this current building at 1551 Crescent Lake, our primary business was stuff that was packaged on 4x4 pallets, so we could kind of go to the sky. As we've had to adapt just for several reasons, we've gone into a lot of long length, which has really been our space crunch. Those doors are, I believe they're 10 or 12 foot, so most of the material's 16 or 18 foot bunks, so we're having a heck of a time getting everything where we need it to be.
Okay. Senior Planner Chipman, would you just use the pointer? Can you just show me then the outline again of where the fenced area would be?
Absolutely.
We've adjusted that too since we found the concrete issue, so can I use that well, I'll just try to tell you.
Let me indicate what I think it
Okay,
is,
yeah, no
and then
problem.
correct me if I'm wrong. So it would come off the front portion of the building, and it would extend into the parking spaces. It has to be set back 10 feet due to the overall building setback in that zone. And then it would come down around, and it sounds like it would probably follow the blacktop due to the construction issues with the concrete.
Yes, that's pretty correct. And so off the southeast corner, the fence would come straight east off of that corner, so it wouldn't be any into the north field of that at all.
And how long would the materials be there? Is that going to be a semi-permanent storage solution at this point?
Well, I mean, it's as permanent as our lease. We wrote into our lease, we extended our lease in September, I believe. We had a 4-year lease with this building, just to kind of get an idea if it would satisfy our needs. It did. We extended our lease in August or September for 10 years and wrote in with our landlord provision that he allow us to put up the fence, obviously with the village approval, and that we will be responsible to remove it at lease termination.
Thank you. That's all I have for you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, why didn't your dad buy the property next to you and go that direction rather than, if you notice, just through the pictures, there's not a fence in this whole industrial park. And now you want to put one right next to the road. But your dad could have bought the property next to it and be on his own, kind of like,
I can't speak, I'm buying my dad out. He's not involved in the day-to-day operation anymore. So I can't speak to decisions he made prior to me being involved in the business. I'm assuming that this question stems from Lloyd, because Lloyd called me and asked me, I don't know, 3 weeks ago if we'd be interested in buying that. Yeah, right now it's just cost prohibitive. I mean, you know, we're trying to work within our means and, you know, work with, again, we just entered a long-term lease with the building at 1717. So to buy a lot, to pave a lot, and in hopes that we can fence the lot, you know, I don't know that that was really in play when my dad was involved in the business. He's strictly our landlord at this point, at 1551.
Do you know the covenants on that whole park? Have you ever read those, or your dad
I just
read
got a
them?
copy of them. In fact, I asked my dad on Friday, or Thursday or Friday, when I got a copy of them. He had never seen them. So that was kind of news to us. I don't see anything in the covenants that we would be in, I guess, an issue with.
Probably the issue would be, it said, I think, stuff more in the back, so all the front of the buildings, and here you're gonna put this in the front, so that'd probably be about the only,
I don't know, though. I mean, it's a peninsula, so you're going to see it from, you know, from one road or the other. You know, I don't know. There's really no back lot in that sense. And I know it was brought up when we first approached Jared prior to the new year. And so there's two challenges there. A, again, the cost to pave and fence the north side, which was their original suggestion, but also the way our equipment, you know, is, we really can't put heavy equipment on that asphalt, so we'd have to unload trucks on the street, which I think would probably be more disturbing than anything. So beyond that,
and you're gonna put 4x4 pallets all the way up to the top and all the way down, all the blacktop, in other words.
well, they won't be 4x4 pallets. They'll be long length bunks, similar to what you saw in that street view. And no, it'd just be on that southeast portion of the parking lot.
I know in the covenants, it says no storage in 16-wheelers. And I know that picture don't show up, but you got one sitting there that's been there a while, and I don't know if, maybe our lawyer can tell me, who handles the covenants in any property? I mean, even like Sugar Dome or whatever, does the village have a say, or does the people?
So the village wouldn't enforce the covenants. That would be strictly between private property owners. It's similar to an HOA, where the property owner, if they're subject to covenants on the property, they have to follow both village rules and the covenants that were imposed by the private party. So similar to an HOA, if I buy a house and the village has one fence regulation, but the HOA has stricter, the village will impose its own fence regulation, but the owner also must know what other regulations are on their property too. But the village wouldn't come in and then enforce HOA regulations. That would be up to the HOA. So in a case like this, if there is in fact covenants on the property, which here there are, it would be whatever association or whoever was the owner that imposed that would be subject to enforcement of those covenants. So that would not be something that the village would enforce. But of course, they must abide by all the village's rules, and that would be, the village would enforce their own rules.
And we say we can stack stuff in trailers. It's just that here, as you can tell by any of these other places, nobody's got them, so.
Yeah, so that would be up to the private property
private
owner
properties.
to work out with whoever, and, you know, if that's a risk, if they believe that it allows it, you know, they can move forward. If there's some sort of pushback, that would be a risk on the private property owner, but it wouldn't be a matter that the village would necessarily involve themselves with.
Okay, thank you.
So whose ever rules are tighter, if the village's rules were tighter and the covenants allowed them to do something, they would have to follow the village's rules. But if the villages were a little bit more lax, they have to follow the tighter covenant, correct?
Well, they always have to follow the village rules no matter what, and then whether or not, typically it would be the covenants that would be tighter than a village rule unless they were, you know, in whatever case. But, you know, the village is going to enforce the village rules, and then, yes, if the HOA or whatever body has stricter rules, they would have to abide by those. But it's also incumbent on that body to enforce those rules because they are different than what the village has adopted.
And promulgate them, right?
I'm sorry?
And promulgate the rules, right? I
Correct.
think that's a bigger issue. I didn't see the governance until Thursday of last week, so.
Jared, what were the other property owners' concerns? You said that some of the neighboring folks came.
Yeah, it was predominantly the concern stemmed around the location and also the location potentially affecting property values. Those are the two comments that I heard.
But the fence is going to be screened with landscaping. There's a landscaping plan where it's going to be screened from the street.
Correct. There is not a landscaping plan at this point in time, but we are working to develop one that is one of our additional recommendations. But yes, we do intend to screen it with landscaping.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Staff have anything else to add on this?
Not at this time.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to
Accept planning commission's
accept the Planning
recommendation?
Commission recommendation, which is item C.
So moved?
Second.
Go ahead.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes?
Trustee Spurling.
Yes,
Trustee Lee.
I'm going to pass on, I'm a relative of one of them that is not happy with it, and conflict of interest. If there's litigation farther on, I don't want to be involved in it.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
All right, that carries 3-0. The ordinance 1840, granting the special use, is first reading this evening. So we're not going to take action on this. Since it sounds like Denny won't be likely voting for this, we won't put it on consent. So it'll be item for separate action at a future meeting. Okay? All right. Yeah, I saw that. You want to? All right, at this point, we're just going to take about a 3-minute recess just to adjust a spotlight, and then we'll get going. Thank you. They might. So we'll move on to item E this evening, which is a award of contract to Virgil Cook & Son for traffic signal installation at Galena Road and Concord Drive. And I'll ask Engineer Wallers for a summary.
Thank you, Mayor. We're looking for approval and award to the low bidder. It was Virgil Cook & Sons. We had 4 bidders submit bids for us. They were advertised January 25th. Bidding closed on February 5th. The low bidder was Virgil Cook & Sons at $231,517.08. Engineer's estimate was $299,918.50, so about 22% underestimate. We had a good grouping of bids. We've done work with Virgil Cook in the past, so we're confident in awarding the project to them. So we respectfully request a motion to award the project to Virgil Cook & Sons.
Perfect. Any questions or a motion?
I have a question. I know is this just our cost, or is this the shared cost total?
This is the entire cost of the construction, which is shared 50% by Kendall County, 25% by Oswego, and 25% by Montgomery. So in the intergovernmental agreement, Montgomery was designated as the lead local agency, so we're handling the bids and the construction, but the other 2 entities are participating in the costs.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve?
second,
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
yes,
Trustee Lee.
Yes?
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
And that carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item F this evening is a waiver of bid and award contract to Cornerstone Partners for rejuvenative pruning. I knew that was going to be hard to say, so go ahead, I'll let you say it a couple of times more.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you tonight is a contract and waiver of bid request to Cornerstone Partners for the rejuvenative pruning to be performed on properties throughout the village for the sum of $57,313.78. The properties included in this Contract consists of multiple facilities owned by the Village of Montgomery, as well as some of the areas where the village manages SSAs. The intent of this contract would be to perform regenerative pruning to shrubs and shade trees in these areas. The work will consist of pruning to promote new growth, removal of diseased and dead limbs, increase visibility for pedestrians and motorists, and remove limbs that are causing damage to buildings or monument signs. Please note that all the pruning will be performed will be done to the standards set by the village arborist. Height pruning will include, decreasing the height of shrubs and hedges, but not to be excessive to the point where it will reduce a sense of privacy to homeowners that may be effective where the properties are adjacent to areas pruning will take place. The work will take place as part of the contract, to my knowledge, has never been completed by a contractor or village staff in the past. So this would be the first. These plants have seen this type of pruning. Cornerstone Partners has proven to be a valuable contractor through the work that they have performed through the landscape maintenance contract that they have been awarded the past 2 years. Cornerstone was recently awarded a one-year extension to that contract for the 2019 season. With Cornerstone's previous work history and their familiarity with the areas of work that will take place with this contract, I'm recommending Cornerstone Partners to be awarded the contract for regenerative pruning. If there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain those at this time.
Mark, what's the time frame they're planning to do this?
They're really wanting to get started as soon as possible. This is kind of the ideal time of year. Temperatures where they're at are conducive to them doing that, so they hope to get out in the next couple of weeks to start getting this project underway.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
As I look through this, there's two pruning methods. There's selective, which is, it says in here, it's selective reconstructive pruning shall be employed during dormancy, blah, blah, blah. Then down below, it says pruning shall be moderate for deciduous plants to force new growth from base of plants. And I understand what they're saying there, but I want to make sure that selective reconstructive pruning means that they're pruning by hand.
Yes.
They're
That-
not using shears, and they're not making squares or anything like that.
Yes, that's something that when we met with Cornerstone Partners and discussed the contract, Ed Paff, the village arborist, was very adamant about was hand pruning only. Like I said, Ed actually reviewed this contract and met with them, detailed to our specs. This is actually revised from the original contract that they submitted.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
you're welcome.
All right. Any other comments, questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
And I will vote yes on this as well.
Okay.
All right. And that carries. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. All right, item G this evening is Resolution 2019-001, authorizing repair work in IDOT right-of-way. This is Mark. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you tonight is resolution number 2019-001. This resolution is a standard agreement that is presented to the village every 2 years from IDOT. This resolution states that the Village of Montgomery will comply with the standards set forth by IDOT. This resolution also will allow the village crews to work in the right-of-way as well as subcontractors hired by the village to perform emergency repairs in IDOT right-of-way. This work can relate to any infrastructure that is owned by the Village of Montgomery. At this time, I'm recommending approval of the resolution 2019-001. If there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain those at this time.
Questions or a motion?
Second?
Go ahead.
Trustee Youngerman, or excuse me, Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Sorry. Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
And Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And that carries 4-0. Thank you, sir.
Just making sure.
All right. So for all of the rest of the items under separate action, did you want to talk about those at the same time or all individually?
H we'll talk about separately. It's
Oh,
fees.
that's
And then
fees.
the rest of them we'll talk about as a group.
Sorry. Okay, so we'll do item H. It's ordinance 1842, amending section 1-11 of the village code. This is building and development fees, first reading. Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, the fees. Staff is proposing several updates to our comprehensive fee ordinance. So these updates are to clarify issues that have presented themselves since the comprehensive fee ordinance was originally passed, which was not, excuse me?
Sorry, September.
September, thank you. Most of these fee updates are not truly doing much in the way of changing, just clarifying items. So we have an update to engineering reinspection fees, greater information on new construction, outlining exactly how those fees are to be interpreted. And then we call out solar panels and wind energy and put a flat fee on the two of those. One of the reasons why the solar energy is important is because the village is working towards the Greenest Region Compact, and we're also working towards our Soul Smart designation, and this will assist in achieving a level of designation in that classification structure. With that, I would recommend approval of the fee ordinance update.
Thank you.
First reading. Is everybody okay with that going on consent in the future?
I have a quick question now. And I don't know if this would go to Jared or to Laura. If people have solar panels in place already, are they subject to these fees, or are they sort of grandfathered in?
It would be anyone that comes for an application with the solar panels in the future. So yeah, anyone that had it wouldn't be subject to something that wasn't in place when they
Okay,
put them on.
thank you.
All right. If there's no objection, we'll add that to consent for a future meeting. All right, so we'll move on to I, J, K, L, M, and N, which is updating our building codes, more or less. And I'm sure you're going to give us a lot more detailed information. So go ahead.
Thank you very much. Before you this evening are a host of different building code updates. One of the reasons why they are listed separately is because in the end, they will each need a separate vote, potentially unless they're placed on the consent agenda. One of the main reasons why we're working towards updating the building codes is because building code updates allow the village to work with, it's called ISO and CRS. They're two insurance rating agencies, and they mandate that different municipalities stay current on things to allow for the residents of those municipalities to get the highest amount of insurance break on their insurance. So that's one of the reasons, one of the primary reasons why we like to stay current. We also just like to stay current with as best we can. This ordinance will complete the changes, complete the change from the current 2009 code to the full set of the 2015 version. There are no specific changes. This version has some reclassifications and quite a few verbiage changes for the purpose of being helpful to understand and interpret various areas that may have been a bit unclear in the past. The one item new this cycle is the existing building code. It sounds old, but actually it's a new code. So there was a section in a very large chapter in a previous code that talked about existing buildings and how they are to be retrofitted, and it gave them size of project status. Well, that chapter was so large that the ICC pulled the entire chapter out and made a separate code out of it. During the past year, the building officials have attended training sessions in regards to the 2015 code and have compared with other municipalities which have adopted the code. So if anyone has any questions or need any clarifications, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, if I'm not able to answer some of the questions, be happy to get an answer from Building Inspection Supervisor Klupar.
Excellent. Questions? I have two pretty simple questions. Is there anything in here in these updates that would either that you think would downgrade any of our insurance ratings? And also as the fire districts, I know we approve the fire code, but it's also essentially in working with them, if they're on board with these changes as well?
I do know that Building Inspection Supervisor Klupar has been working diligently with fire protection districts, especially Montgomery Countryside, to review this code and to work with them on getting it implemented. Your other question is anything substantially, I apologize, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, is there anything in here that downgrades our current insurance ratings? Where
No,
we're not being as proactive or restrictive as before?
No, nothing in here would downgrade the insurance rating. The only reason we would have a downgrade insurance rating would be if we didn't stay current and adopt these codes.
All right.
Just want to add that we put some specific language in the fire code section to reference the fact that Montgomery does have 5 separate fire districts that have jurisdiction, because I know that can often be a point of confusion when petitioners come forward and they're unaware of that. So just to clarify that and make it readily apparent up front, we did add that language as well.
All right, thank you. Is there any objection to adding this to consent?
I have one additional question. So the 2015 is the most current code?
There's actually 2018. However, there are a couple items in that code that we want to investigate further. So we feel that we are making a lot of progress by going to the 2015. It's also been the village's standard practice to go every other code update, and they happen each 3 years. So this would be in keeping with our practice.
We've done this a couple times already, haven't we?
I think so.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, if you have any questions, pass those along before that's on a future meeting. Thank you. Are there any items for discussion or new or unfinished from anybody? All right, future meetings. Committee of the whole meeting was canceled tonight, but we'll meet in this room in 2 weeks on February 25th at 7 PM. That'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes?
And Trustee Lee.
And we're adjourned. Thank you.